we getting into today? We're going to do some buttercream and some royal icing, and then we're going to do basic covering of buttercream cakes, putting an edible print on the cake and doing a drip. So, but I've got 3 cakes to do, so let's get going. So we're going to start with the buttercream. And I just want to change it so I can see what's happening here. Okay, so let's just go on here so that I can make sure everything's all good. I like to go on my phone so that I can make sure everything is running the way it should be running. Okay. Now can I hear some? Yep, everything sounds good. Good old test with the phone. I'll put my phone down on the side so that you can't see it. Oh, up here actually, so then I can see it. Alright, so what basically we're going to do basic buttercream. My batch is rather large. It's enough to do 2 large cakes or 48 cupcakes. So yeah, it's quite a bit of buttercream. So we're going to start off with just measuring out our ingredients. I will post my buttercream recipe up on my website if you're keen to have it. It's quite a bit of buttercream. I'm just going to cut it up into pieces though, because it just makes it easier for mixing. So it's quite a lot of butter because it's a big batch. 420 grams of baking margarine. Just pop that into here. And I'm just going to chop it up because it just makes it easier, because we don't want any lumps. The trick to super smooth buttercream is to actually have this butter mixed really well and nice and smooth. And obviously you need to take it out the fridge. It mustn't be hard, so you need to take it out of the fridge for about an hour before you want to use it. Or in winter, I keep my margarine in the deep freeze in winter. I take it out the night before, then it's good to go the next morning. I'll be back. Sorry, my husband is in a meeting and I can hear him, and I think you can hear him too. So, yeah, don't want that. Anyway, right, so 420 grams of butter. And then we're going to sift roughly 850 grams of icing sugar. And we will need more later depending on what we actually are doing. Because sometimes you need it to be thicker than what it is when it comes out. The consistency that it is when it's done is perfect for piping. Just that in winter, the buttercream is generally the perfect consistency, and in summer, I tend not to use as much milk and I tend to land up possibly even cutting back on the buttercream. I mean on the butter, because of the margarine, because of the heat. Otherwise you just have to add more icing sugar to make it more firmer and thicker to accommodate for the heat. And if it's really bad, then you just use a stabilizer. Which way do I need to go? If it's really bad, then you need to use a stabilizer, so that it stays firmed up and it doesn't melt. You can use any kind of stabilizer actually, cornstarch, cream of tartar. I like to use Diocel. It's a specific Rolcom product. Really, really good. I know I should be plugging or whatever. Christy's gonna laugh at me because I'm saying this. Sorry, my husband and his friend always laugh at me because I always tell people what I feel is the better product. But isn't that the point of things like this? So that you know, and no, I'm not being paid by them. Okay. Right, so that's that. So we're going to, let's just move this over so that you can see. Sorry. Sorry, the plug to my mixer came undone. Okay, so we're going to put that in there. We'll put the lid on because I don't want to get splashed. Just mix, so it's not completely mixed in, so I'm going to just scrape this all off. You don't want to mix it to the point that it's like, well, you can mix it to the point that it's turning white, which is fantastic, but also by mixing it so much it starts to sort of melt, so you don't want that, because then it's just going to make everything, because it's going to get eaten up more anyway with the icing sugar. You basically just want to move it around so that you can grab all those lumpy bits to make sure that those get mixed in and broken down, because you want, even though it's super thick like this, you still want it, you just want it smooth and creamy. There's supposed to be a slight delay. It's slight delay. Probably doing things to you on the camera, on the live stream. there below. I'm just checking. You're going.
Stuff. So 12 anyway.
Okay. Mask. Oh, my love, in Rebecca's room, in the wash basket there. So we've mixed it halfway, or not even, about a third way, but then we're just going to add some 7.5 mils of vanilla essence. Did you have those this morning? Where did you put them? Okay. 5 mils of salt, and this doesn't make it taste salty. In fact, what happens is that it neutralizes the sweetness, so your and brings out the flavor more. It just makes your icing not super sweet, and it tastes better. So at this point, supposed to use a half a cup of milk, but really decide on your consistency. But just even if you use a quarter cup of milk, you still put a little bit of milk in. It just helps it to make it that creamy consistency. So normally what I do is I just add the milk in a little bit at a time, depending on how I feel. So today is quite a cold day in Cape Town, so I'll probably end up using all that milk, but I'll see how I go. So I'm just going to check it. One, to check the consistency, and I'm still going to use all this icing. It's not that I'm not going to use it all, but also there could possibly be some pieces of butter that's not getting mixed in, so just scrape the sides to make sure, because you really don't want chunks of butter in your buttercream. One, it doesn't taste good, and two, then it just makes it difficult for piping and stuff. So you really do want it mixed in nicely and smooth. No chunks, no lumps. So just make sure it's all mixed in. And you can actually see it because the buttercream is a lighter color and the margarine is darker. So you can see whether it's, if it's mixed in properly or not. Okay, put that on to mix some more, and we'll keep adding the rest of our icing sugar, and I'm probably going to add more. going to pop this onto the side so that it's out the way. Because we will use it again when we're making royal icing. sink to wash. Just give it a good mix with the spatula, just to make sure everything's all incorporated, because you know sometimes it sticks to the side. But you can see that the buttercream has become lighter with all the beating. So if you wanted it really light, you could beat your butter quite a bit so that your butter's already gone light, and then start adding your icing sugar and stuff. But I find the problem with that is that your butter tends to start melting, and then you land up with incredibly soft buttercream, and then you land up having to add so much more icing sugar in, which is obviously not ideal, because you don't want that sugary taste. You don't want to be able to taste like grainy sugar in your icing, because now you've added too much icing sugar, and it will become sweeter. I suppose you could compensate it by putting a little bit more salt in, but yeah. Okay, so I've got 2 chocolate cakes that I need to make. They're going to be basically the same, but I need more chocolate icing. So I've already crumb coated them. I crumb coated them yesterday. I just like to put my tea towel down so that it doesn't mess too much, and I can clear away easier. Okay, so I already have from chocolate buttercream that I had from the other day when I was crumb coating, but I need to make more because I need to cover both these cakes, and I need to obviously decorate them as well, so I need that extra bit of chocolate buttercream. So I'm just going to take some of my buttercream that I've just made, and I'm just going to add it to my chocolate that I've already got. They're 2 small cakes, so the amount of chocolate buttercream I'm going to make now should be enough. So I want to, normally what I do to get a nice rich buttercream, chocolate buttercream, is I generally use leftover buttercream from other orders, you know, whatever I've used, so it doesn't matter what color it is, but I mix. So if I've got little bits and pieces of different colors of buttercream, I just use that, I mix it all together, add some cocoa to it, and I then have a very rich chocolate look, and then obviously a chocolatey flavor because of the other colors make the chocolate look more chocolatey and darker. So I'm going to add some cocoa to this. I think I'm going to actually, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to have enough, because also I want to decorate it. It's a chocolate caramel cake, so I'm going to do a mix of caramel. Well, it's a gluten-free chocolate cake, but with lots of caramel. Oh. Sorry, the cocoa is getting caught in me. The cocoa tends to do that. It's got like little dust particles that kind of catch in your throat when you're working with it. I think that is chocolatey enough. I don't want it too dark, so, and I don't actually want it too thick. So when I crumb coat, I use a thicker buttercream, but when I cover my cakes, I use this is possibly a little too thin and too soft. I want it a little bit thicker than this, but just so that it holds nicely. I just want to go and get another tub. Right, so I'm gonna make more. It's not a chain smash if I don't use it all, but I'd rather have too much than than too little. So I'm just gonna try and basically work out how much I'll need, because when you're piping actually needs quite a bit of icing. Sometimes, depending on the kind of nozzle you're using. Okay, I think that should be enough for both, but I'm going to have to do a bit more cocoa. Add a little more cocoa to that. Sure. Cocoa with the dust. I'm not sure why it does that. It's like this, like fine particles. Normally you would sift your cocoa, because cocoa tends to be very lumpy, but I sifted this whole tub so that I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, but you definitely need to sift. Always, if you're adding icing sugar or cocoa, it must always be sifted before you put it in your buttercream, or else you're going to land up with thick chunks. Okay. Love it when live stream and someone phones. Yeah, I'm just gonna, not sure who that is. And then it's on a playback. So funny. That's what happens when we live stream. Okay, so that looks perfect. It's a little bit thicker because of the cocoa, which is great. And then, you know, thicker than that. Or should I say drier, not so wet. Okay, it's thick, it's creamy. So I'm just gonna do that with the other one. And then I think that will be good to go. So because of the dust particles with the cocoa, I'll end up starting out mixing it quite slowly because of it. Or else it just bursts into my face and then I start coughing. Like a fine dust. I might need to put more in. Yeah. So that it's the same as that one. You see it's much lighter. So I kind of want it to be the same. Just put a little bit more in. So yeah, there's no definitive amount of how much cocoa powder you need to put in. It really just depends on your taste and whether you want a richer, darker cocoa chocolate look and whether you want a really chocolatey taste. Also, the longer that this is exposed to the air, the darker it will go as well. So even once on the cake, while it's sitting, it will go darker. Okay, I think we're pretty much the same. So I have a jug of water here, hot water, boiling water that I put my knives into. One, it saves me on using 50,000 knives, and two, you'll see I use the hot water while I am decorating to get my icing smooth. Should we put that there? Yes. Okay. So let's do one and then another. Get my piping bags out. I'm going to use a smallish hole. I use reusable piping bags. Can be a pain in the bum with washing. So I've already crumb coated these. So they're filled with caramel in between the layers, and filled with caramel, and I've crumb coated with chocolate. Okay, so I'm just going to fill this piping bag. Turn it around so that it's nice and stiff in your hands. Right. So it must be stiff, and so that you can hold, and always pipe from, you always hold your, so for my daughter, I put an elastic on because she tends to hold it down here, even though she tries to hold it on top, but she tends to squash, and then obviously your icing is going to pop out. So, but because I know to hold it here, I twist it nicely, and I'll hold it from the top to push the icing down and out. Don't ever hold it down here. Okay. So we're going to squeeze it all the way around. So this piping your layer for your actual final buttercream layer of icing on your cake. This makes it just more even than using a knife. We are going to scrape it a bit, but obviously to make it nice and smooth. But this generally gives it a good even look to it. And it does need to be a little bit softer, your icing, so that you can make it smoother. I mean, so it can go and attach itself to the crumb coat. If it's too dry and hard, it won't. It'll start to bubble and do some strange things. If it's too thick and dry. So we're going to actually make two identical ones. Two identical chocolate cakes, because I'm required to make two of the same. And I'm not going to fuss too much about putting the top. The reason for that is because I'm going to put caramel on the top, so I'm not going to really fuss too much about how the top looks and whether it's. I just want to empty this icing onto here, but I'm going to smooth it out, but I'm not too stressed about how much icing is on the top because I'm going to put caramel. I'll take my spatula. Is this a spatula? Very mini spatula of icing, and I'm going to just run it around. So ideally, I'm not actually. So for crumb coating, I would be scraping off icing that I've put on. But I'm not scraping the icing off this. I don't want to actually take any excess icing off. I just want to make it as smooth as possible. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm not really, maybe this much icing will come off, but the idea is not to actually, it's not to scrape off icing. It's to just smooth it out. Okay, I'm just going to run this round. So I just want to make this one nice and flat on the top here. But yeah, like I say, I'm not too stressed about how much icing or how it's going to look. Just as long as it's smooth and flat. Because I'm going to be putting caramel on top, so I'm not too, actually I'm going to take the excess off. Because I'm going to put the caramel on it. Okay. Just smooth it out. Okay, then I'm going to use my spatula again, which has now been sitting in very hot water, in boiling water, and it's going to help smooth out the heat of the boiled water. It's going to help this be, if it's not working, it's possibly because the water is not hot enough and you need to actually make a new batch of hot water, which is I think the case I'm going to have right now. So I'm just going to quickly put the kettle on so I can make another batch of hot water. Might just actually just use this. So sometimes I just use this rather than that, but I'm still going to use it just to get it really smooth. And I'm still going to use that spatula with hot water, boiling water. I just want to get this as smooth and as straight as possible before I use the hot water, so that I can see if there's any grooves or anything where it's needing a little extra icing. So like over here it needs a little extra icing, so I'm just going to put a little extra icing there, and then we're going to run it around again, and it will smooth it out. But again, I'm not really taking any excess off. I'm not purposely taking icing off. Let me leave that aside. And then dry it before you put it. So what's going to happen is that, okay, I need hot water. This is not hot enough. It's hot, but it's not boiling, and it needs to be boiling. So I'm just going to empty that and then put new boiling water in here. What's going to happen is that this is going to get heated up quite a lot, and that is just going to, it's almost like going to melt your buttercream as you move it around, but it smooths out your buttercream beautifully, and then while your cake is sitting, it will dry up, and then you've got this beautiful smooth buttercream. So normally I'll probably do a stream on it, or I could do it today actually. Might just do it today with the other cake, is using the buttercream I see my wife. I just realized one of them has disappeared. Buttercream. What is it called? It's buttercream paper that you use to smooth it out. There's a whole technique to that. I'm just thinking that. Oh, okay. So I think I'm going to do that. There's a completely different technique I use when I use that, so that the top is totally flat. Because I'm doing a drip, I want the top to be totally flat, and I want the sides to be very as smooth as possible. So I'm gonna use that buttercream. Let me just go get it. These are buttercream sheets. They are reusable. You can wash them, and you can iron them and then reuse them. They're really awesome. I don't use them all the time. I use them only when I want something super smooth. So some boiling water then. Okay. So now this is going to be super hot. And it's going to literally just glide. You can see it totally glides over and smooths things out. I just want to do that with this at the moment, and then I'm going to finish off the sides like this. Just dry it before, because it's super hot, so you don't want it more water getting into your buttercream. It's not what you're after. I'm going to sort that out just now. I just wanted the extra chunks. So I'm going to just smooth, because this is very hot. I'm going to just smooth it around. And there's not much icing coming off, but the heat will just smooth it down. And then you just dry it as you go along. So it'll, as the longer you leave this in, the hotter that pellet will be. Okay, so now my sides are super smooth. Just want to fix this little bit up here. So now that's nice and smooth there. And then I'll just fix the top up. So while this is hot still, I'm just going to do the other cake as well. The other chocolate cake. Just want to smooth it out. Like I say, I'm not too stressed about what it's going to look like, because I'm going to put caramel on. But I just want a flat surface to be working with. Oh no! It got caught there. Okay. Sorry, when I flipped it over, I caught it. Because these things do happen. we try to do our cakes perfectly, but obviously they don't always, well, in the process, it's not always perfect until you've touched things up. Okay, so I'm just going to put that one aside. And then we're going to do the other one. And then I'll come back to it. I'll then pick up the other one too. Oh, this knife is super hot now. Okay, put that in there. And do the same thing. So this is your basic way of buttercreaming your cakes. If you don't have any of the fancy tools and you just have your spatula and a few different things, you know, if you're a home baker, you just, well, a mom who just wants to bake her own kids' cakes but make them look pretty, this is basically how you would go about it. If you're watching, say hello. I'd like to know that you're watching and you're wanting to know what's happening. And if you've got any questions, ask away. Okay, again, we're going to just use, I'm just going to do this bit first. It really is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, whether you do the top of your cake first. I don't have any real preference, it just depends on what I'm trying to do. Whether you do the top first and then the bottom or not. So yeah, really is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But I kind of want to make this flat, so that's the purpose of me doing this one now first. I am actually going to do the top first on the other cake, and you'll see why, because I'm going to ice it a little bit differently to this. So then I'm going to use my spatula. I'm going to run it around. It's nice and hot, so probably end up with an even smoother finish because it's already super hot. You just keep running it around. You can see, I don't know if you can see, so like you've got gaps like that and like over there. So you're just going to keep going around until you get it nice and smooth, and then if you have any excess you can just fill up those gaps so that you can get it. The whole idea is obviously to get your cake looking as upright and straight as possible. So this one's not going to even, yeah, I've got this one as smooth as possible without even using the hot water. So I'm just going to run it around just so that I can get it nice and smooth. I mainly do buttercream cakes because, yeah, cheaper, tastes better. So I do fondant cakes, but very far and few between. Don't do it very often. I was once told that buttercream cakes don't look as professional, but I have tried to make my buttercream cakes look, sometimes I actually don't think that the fondant cakes look very professional. They can look terrible. So you just hold it over the edge and pull it in. Try not to catch the, like I did just now. So if you hold it there and then pull it over, and obviously the hotter your spatula is, the smoother it will be. Again, not to stress about how it looks on the top, because I'm going to add caramel to it. I'm going to put caramel on the top, so that will fill in all my gaps and tidy that up anyway. Okay. So it's looking pretty smooth. Right, so I'm going to just put this one over there, and then I'm going to get some nozzles. Oh, I forgot to bring the nozzles. I'm just going to go and get my nozzles. I'm going to need to wash that because or not. Okay, so that's that done. I don't need any of that. So wipe up here. Baking etiquette, always Always keep things clean. And hands washed all the time. I'm just going to quickly go get my tin of nozzles so that we can get moving with that. I have quite a collection of nozzles. So I'm just going to use basic, I think I'm going to just use the basic star, but use that one and that one. I'm going to use two different stars because I'm going to do chocolate and then caramel in between. So I'm going to do a mix of both, and then I'm going to finish it off with some, I always do I'm not sure, maybe I can just use, this is going to be, yeah, I'll just use this. Okay, all the way around. So we need our piping bags, and we're going to do, our piping bags are still wet from being washed. We're going to pop that in. For the caramel, and then this one we're going to use for chocolate and cream. Okay, so pop that in. That's good. I'm going to need to cut that slightly. It's just a little bit too much over the nozzle. You don't want it cutting off your actual nozzle pattern. Oh. Okay. So let's just put that aside so we can. So I'm going to put caramel into this one. So we can make a star pattern with the caramel. Now the thing is with caramel is that you must never mix it, never beat it, never mix it. Don't ever do that. It will go like liquid if you do that. So as it is, when it comes out the tin, is how you use it. Should you want to pipe it, or actually, should you want to use it for anything else, for anything regarding cakes, and that you wanted to keep its shape, don't beat it. What I can say, just don't do it. That should be enough for any kind of piping that I'm planning on doing. I don't like to fill my tubs, my piping bags up too full. Then it makes it difficult to use and handle. So just wanted this a little cooler because it was quite hot. So this is straight out of the tin. You can see it's thick and congealed, right? So that's how you're going to use it. As is. You're not going to beat it or anything of the sort, because you won't be able to pipe it otherwise. It's just gonna turn to liquid. Okay. So right, and the rest of this, I do have more caramel if I need, so not too stressed. Okay. So I don't need this. I'm going to empty this and boil the water again for the next cake. For the next cake, because that's white. Okay. So, oops. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a spoon, because I think that will work better, then nothing will squeeze out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe my border first. So I'm going to make some little star swirls. So I'm using the star nozzle, a star nozzle. And I'm just going to do some cute little swirls with it. So I do it like this so that it's even, so that I can make it look so in between, it's so that you can try and get the gaps pretty much the same. I'm just going to make like a little dam out of icing there, and these are the ones that I'm going to put oh, that one's a bit small. So is that one. So I need to try and make it as even as possible. Okay. So I'm going to now pipe and I'm using that star nozzle. I'm just going to squirt it in. Actually, I'm just going to make that one a little bit bigger than that, and that one. So that we're a little bit more caramel. And then I'm going to just quickly clean the board. So that it's clean, and then I really prefer not to leave my cakes like this, where there's no finish. So even if it's something just to match the bottom so that it doesn't look, yeah, I prefer to always finish it. I never leave it because I can't get in close enough to clean it without messing my cake, and then it doesn't look finished, and that I just can't deal. So I'm actually going to, I'm not going to pipe chocolate on the end. I'm going to put caramel in here because this friend of mine she loves the caramel, so I'm just giving her extra caramel. I have guinea pigs who test out my treats because I can't eat it all myself. I don't want to end up with diabetes, and I sure as hell don't want to get too fat. I'm trying to lose weight, so very difficult when you make delicious treats on a daily basis. So I try not to eat too much of it. So I'm just making little stars all the way around just so that it looks finished. Yeah, it just looks much nicer when it is finished. Stars, any kind of pattern actually you can put on at the bottom, but just something so that it doesn't look incomplete. Okay, and then I'm actually going to use a spoon I'm going to spoon this on the top. So the reason why I did the edging first was so that I could have the chocolate icing part, the buttercream part, to actually, if I'd done this first, I might have gone too far out on the edges, and then the buttercream would have been trying to sit on the caramel, and that is not really ideal, as it yeah, it'll then, like, you know, fall off kind of thing. So that's why I'm spooning it in, because the spoon has got the bend, and yeah, it's just easier to get it in, and then I'm not touching my patterns that I've done. Let me just make it smooth and look nice and pretty. And you don't, the caramel sometimes has this extra liquid in it. Try not to use it, because obviously it will then create like a liquidy something on the top, and it's just not going to look good. I'm just using the back of the spoon. I'm going to get the same effect with a knife, but or a palette knife, but I just, because of the bend, I actually need to invest in one of those bent ones. I don't have that, I've only got the one. Okay, so that's as smooth as it's going to get. It's not going to get any smoother than that, and you can't use any water or anything like that to smooth this out. It's just going to, maybe what I should do is just a star in the middle. Because it's all chocolate and caramel. So that's that one. So we're gonna, that one's done. We're just gonna do another one exactly the same. Oh. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on this one. I don't know if you've noticed that as this has been sitting drying, the chocolate has gotten darker from when I first put it on. I'm going to need more chocolate. Oh, I'm not going to need the knife. That's fine. Just use it. Oops. Yeah. Oh. Let's close up the gaps with my little dams. This is one of my tea time treats on my website. So it's a very mini little cake. It's only a 15 centimeter 2 layer as opposed to a 15 centimeter 3 or 4 layer. So it's a mini cake. So I just am giving it a bit of a shake to give the little pattern. Okay, let's just make that one bigger. And then we're clean here. Put our stars on the bottom. This caramel one looks a little bit, it looks different to my other tea time treat caramel cake because this one is gluten free, so I kind of want the pattern on it to look different so that I can tell the difference between, you know, if say I had a chocolate and a gluten free one, I'll know the difference between the two once they are covered. So the two they do look different because this is a gluten-free chocolate cake. Okay. Just going to put dollops of, because it's quite thick, can be quite difficult to spread, and then start lifting my icing, which obviously is not ideal. Oh, get it smooth. I think it's the spoon. Let's see. Yes, it is the spoon. That's so funny. Okay, so you can see now, because it's starting to, so this cake is for a friend, test run, guinea pig, so it's not complete train smash if it's not 100%. And she loves all the caramel possible. I put a dollop in the middle. So that's my second caramel cake, and then we're gonna get on to my other cake. So just to follow some protocol rules for COVID, I'm gonna put a mask on now because it is so these two cakes are for a friend who's in my bubble. So, but the next cake is for a customer, and obviously just to follow protocol for COVID, I'm going to put a mask on, and hopefully you're going to still be able to hear me okay. I just find that sometimes the mask muffles, so hopefully you'll still be able to hear me. I'll wear a thinner mask, so hopefully that will be okay. So I'm just going to quickly clean up, wash my hands, put a mask on, and then we'll move on to to my next cake. Just put these in the wash. Just want to clean my surface because I don't like working on a dirty surface. Do I really need these? Just wash these but quickly and pop that in the wash. Okay, I'll put this back. I don't need any of that at this point. Okay. I'll just wipe up here. So before we start, I want to use chocolate everywhere. My mask. So while my kettle's boiling, I'm going to do this a little differently. The way I'm going to ice this is going to be different. Just shout, let me know if you can't hear me. But my sound says that you should be able to hear me. Pop that in there because we need that to be hotish. That actually. Okay. I'll pop that on the side. We're going to do this slightly differently now. In that I'm going to use these to make things smoother. Because I want a flat top. I don't want my sides to be as smooth as possible. Okay, so because of that, I'm going to, when using those, your icing cannot be this texture. This is perfect texture, but it needs to be thicker and a little drier. So I'm going to, maybe I should need 2 of these. I'm going to get another one. So I'm going to make this a little bit drier in texture, and it's not going to be as wet. And when I talk about drier, this is, when I touch it, it's wet and it sticks to my fingers like this. That's wet. So I'm going to make it a little drier so that it doesn't really do that. So I'm going to use two because it's going to bulk up, because I'm going to add icing to this. So I'm gonna add more icing to these 2 bowls. Always sifted. Hello my friend. You've just missed what your cake. Do you want to see what your cake looks like, or do you want it as a surprise? Can you hear me okay with my mask on? Let me know, Sam. I have a mask on for a reason, because obviously my next cake is for a customer and it's not you. And you know, COVID protocols, and I'm live, kind of need to wear a mask. Okay, but can you hear me? That's what I really want to know, is if you can hear me over this mask, because if I do anything that's got to do with customers, I have to wear a mask. So if you can tell me that you can hear me perfectly fine still, that's fantastic. I think this is going to be the right consistency now. The thing is that I don't want it too dry, because it's not going to then stick to my cake, and then I'm going to have other issues. So I just want it dry enough so that when it dries, I can use the buttercream sheets. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cover the cake. It needs 10 minutes to dry on the cake before I use the sheets. So we're going to cover the cake, and then we're going to leave it to dry. And while we're doing that, we'll make the royal icing for drip. I wanted to show you the consistency. Remember, it was quite wet. So now, no, that looks bad. So now that's not as wet. It's not sticking to my finger as much. When we do the Russian nozzle flowers, the consistency of the icing needs to be fairly dry and almost to the touch. When you touch, there's no icing on your fingers. But like I say, I want this icing to be in between that and how it was when I finished mixing it. And now everything was looking fantastic, and now my stream is saying otherwise. That's strange. Has my internet gone a bit poof? Oh, I wasn't recording this. I didn't press record. I wonder, I'm gonna have to download. Although I don't know why I'm watching both here. I can actually just do this. I can see what's happening. Technology. So yeah, I just kind of want to record this bit because then I can make a nice little highlights package. Okay, so I'm going to just do this. Should be good enough. Where's my cloth gone? Oh man. I keep losing my cloth. YouTube is shouting at me saying that the stream is of bad quality all of a sudden when it was doing okay. In fact, okay, that's back to being excellent health. Not sure what was going on there. So weird. It is strange being on YouTube as opposed to other live streams. Okay. So inside my box is my cake. Which is chocolate. So this is a chocolate inside and out cake. Chocolate filling, chocolate everything. Okay, so I'm just gonna clean this up. So it's gonna be a white cake on the outside. So I do prefer to crumb coating chocolate because the chocolate buttercream, because the chocolate buttercream tends to dry harder than the normal buttercream, which just makes it much better in the long run, especially in the heat. If it's a hot day, it's a lot more stable. Like I feel like sometimes you can only add in so much icing to something before it just seems too sugary. And where you can almost feel, like, never mind taste it, feel the sugar on in your mouth, which is not good. Okay, so we're gonna do this completely differently. to the way we just did the chocolate cakes that we were doing now. In that, I'm gonna have to use a different one. I'm gonna do the top first. So my icing is thicker for one. My icing is thicker, and because I need the top to be smooth and flat, because I'm going to be putting an edible print on top. So I want it as smooth and as flat as possible. So we're going to do the top first, and then we're going to do the sides. I don't do it this way very often. This seems a bit wet still. Let's use the other one in case I need to. Okay. Now you see this one's not as wet. I think I need to add more icing sugar to that other one, but it's fine, this will do. Want to check something. So that's going to work. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to do the top first, right? And we want this nice and thick because we don't want the chocolate crumb coating to come through. We want it nice and smooth, and we just want it to look good. I'm just going to put a little bit on the side like that. I'm going to do the top first before I do the sides, and it's for a very particular reason. Okay, so let's move this over here. Okay, so we're going to run the top around so that we can make it smooth. Again, I'm not trying to take excess off. All I'm, it's not like crumb coating where you're trying to take the excess off to make it smooth and stuff. I'm trying to just get a smooth, flat surface. That's what I'm after at the moment. So if there's excess, it will be minimal flat surface. I mean minimal icing coming off. See, not a lot. If I was crumb coating, a lot would be coming off, because you do crumb coating to fill gaps and make things straight and smooth as possible. So I want to get this as ideally to where I want it as possible before I do the next step. So I'm going to use my other spatula, which I think needs to be, let's just see, heated up. Okay, I'm going to use this one. Yes, it's creating bubbles. Okay, so it's creating bubbles like it because it's cold and not hot. So I just want to heat it up a bit so that I'm going to try and get this as flat and as smooth as possible. We're then going to put, we're going to then put one of these sheets on the top. And then we're going to put the cake board on top. And then we're going to flip the cake. Then we're going to flip the cake. I think I need a clean one. This one is dirty. I need a clean one. Okay, so this is a bit hot now. So you will see how it will smooth the cake out of it. You see that? Did you see that? That was perfect. And no icing on my knife. Okay. So that's as smooth as I'm going to get it, right? And then we're going to put this on top. It needs to be dry before I put it on top, or else it is going to stick. So let me just, I really don't want it to stick, because that's the whole point, is that it doesn't stick. You don't want it sticking to this at all. That's the reason why we make our icing thicker. And while I'm busy doing that, let me just make this icing thicker because it's not thick enough. So unfortunately, obviously with me using the heat, it makes that icing a bit damp, which is obviously not what I want. I need it to be a little bit dry. So let's just do this quick. That will buy me some time to just empty this a bit. This should be enough once I've done this to thicken it up. Yeah, definitely better. You can see it in the texture. Not sure if you can see it on the camera, if it looks any different, but it definitely is better to thicken up. So nothing sticking to my fingers, which is good. This is what you call crusting buttercream. So basically what it does is that it forms this thin layer when it dries, which crusts and makes like a crust on the buttercream, but obviously on the inside it will be smooth. And soft. So I'm going to put this on top, right? And then I'm going to put another cake board on top. And then I'm going to, I use old reused cake boards for this. And then I'm going to flip my cake around. Okay. So what this is doing is the weight of your cake is now making your top flat, 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 flat. So while this is like this, I'm going to do the sides. I'm just going to mix this in here so that it's all the same consistency. we're going to do the same thing the way we ice the sides. I just don't want any gaps at the bottom here. Try to push your icing so that it's actually sticking to your cake. If you don't have it where it looks like it's going to start coming away from your cake, that's a problem. Over so that you can see better. So always got to get it in the right spot. Oh, I need more icing. That air bubble out. Then we're going to go all the way around. Again, make it nice and thick. Make sure it's sticking. And you're going to go right onto the board, this board. It is a little bit more difficult to do this, but the result is just incredible. Now, okay, I need a little bit to go, so I'm just going to use my knife. Try and get it in there nicely. Okay. Make sure that there's no gaps, there's nothing peeking through. You don't want to see this chocolate at all. Just you make sure that there's icing in the gaps. Okay. Then we are going to use this flat side down. This is going to be interesting. Okay, I'm going to use this one because it's clean. Okay, so I'm going to use this flat side. This fits exactly underneath here in this depth, which is what I need to do. Sometimes my cake is not high enough and then I can't get this in, which is a bit of a problem. But today the gods are with me. So this is going to work well. So you're just going to go gently all the way around. So basically you're going to ice it the same way as you would if the cake was the other way around, so that you can get a smooth, fluid, hard edge. Okay, what's happening is, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see? Oh yes, you can. Can you see that gap? So I want to fill that gap. I don't want it like that, because the more I scrape off, the thinner my layer of icing is going to become. And then it's not going to be like it should be. and then it's going to get thinner and thinner, and then you're going to start seeing the chocolate underneath it, and that's obviously not what we want. So I'm just going to fill those gaps, and then we're going to go around again. Like I say, when we're doing it like this, it's when you're covering your cake, you want to take as little icing off as possible. It's not the same as crumb coating when you take excess off. You just want it to be smoothed out, that's all. Okay. So we do it again. You have to be a little bit careful because this is only, you only get them in this size. So this fits exactly on a 20 centimeter cake. So when you're coming around the corner here, you can actually catch this. So I just try and go as slowly as I can. I don't catch anything. Again, I'm going to make it as smooth as I possibly can without having to do anything extra to it. And then I will use my spatula with the heat, and then we will totally smooth it out. Okay, so that's pretty smooth. I'm going to flip it over because now I need to make the bottom, this is the bottom. I'm going to just go around the base of the cake so that I can make that smooth, and I could do it the other way. I could flip the cake now back and do it, which is probably what I should do instead of trying to do it like this upside down because I can't see actually. So I'm going to flip it again. So like I say, the weight of the cake has now, and with the board, has made this top super flat. Don't want to take it off just yet because I want to make sure that this is okay. I'm not too stressed about any gaps here, as I'm going to finish it off. It'll get covered. See, the thing is, once I've done this, I don't actually want to fiddle with it much more. Okay, so this is going to be as smooth as it's going to get for now. Okay, put that in there because I need it to heat up. And then we're going to take the top off. Are we ready to take the top off and see what it's going to look like? Okay, so we're going to take that off and we're going to peel this off. And you have flat, smooth, hard edges, which is amazing. So this is really how you would go about it if you wanted it this hard edged. But with some of the cakes that I make, really just don't need it. So I just wanted to show this. And then this is hot enough, yes. So I'm just going to smooth this out a bit, just to make sure. And then it's going to sit for 10 minutes or so while we make the royal icing for the drip. And then we're going to then, so this is perfect the way it is. So I'm not going to fiddle too much because I don't actually want when you tend to fiddle too much, then you'll end up making more issues. So yeah, I don't want to make more issues. So okay. I just want to clean up my board because I'm not going to be able to clean up my board once I put the drip on. So bearing in mind, I'm actually going to put a edible print on here. So I don't actually need to smooth it out more. This is perfect as it is. But if you weren't going to put an edible print on and you wanted it super smooth, like this little gap here, you will then do what I'm going to do on the sides and rub it once it's dry. So I'm going to just clean here. So obviously you put in an edible print, you're not going to see this, and then I'm going to, we put in drip. So any of these imperfections you're not going to see because we're going to add other things to hide it anyway. But if you wanted a picture perfect, this came out. Sometimes it takes me a few goes, but this has come out beautiful. Just depends on the day, I think. Sometimes we have gremlins, eh? Okay, I'm going to go and put this aside to dry, and then we're going to make some royal icing. I just want to cover my buttercream that's sitting because it's going to dry out, which I don't want it to do. So I'm not going to touch that any further because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this on it. So that's that. Let me move my box. Okay, so now we're going to make some royal icing. So let's just tidy up here a bit. Move things around so we can put the mixer back here. Close this up. That and that. Have some water. Okay, let's do some royal icing. Bring the mixer back. Just a bit. Right, so royal icing requires egg white and icing sugar, and requires 4 egg whites, and I keep egg white in a bottle because I don't have time to separate eggs. It's 4 egg whites. I've got such a little left here. I'm going to, yeah, so this one's going to be 5 egg whites. I'll just add more icing sugar because of it, just because I want to finish that. I don't want to leave that in the fridge. But normally it would be 4 egg whites and 400 grams of icing sugar. So I'm going to, because I'm using 5 egg whites, I'm going to do 500 grams of icing sugar. And if I feel like it needs more, I'll add more. But for drip, you want it runny. You see there's moisture in the air. There's no static with my icing sugar. In summer, there's so much static that I electrocute myself on my bowl with the icing sugar. So we're going to do 500 grams. That's 500 grams. That's a batch of royal icing, but obviously I'm not going to need that much. I won't need that much with my drip, but I need to make a batch. It's the only way to make it. So I can't make it half a batch or whatever. And I will use this royal icing, so, and it's completely deep freezable. So I'll actually even put it in, if I don't need it right now, I'll put it in a tub and put it in the deep freeze. Sorry for the noise. Sorry, my phone battery's dying. Okay, so I added just a little bit of water because it was seeming a bit thick. a very little bit of water. No, this is perfect. I don't need to add more water. In fact, now I'm feeling like maybe I've made it too runny. Okay. When you beat it like this, it makes it actually nice and fluffy, and it makes it more white. If it could even possibly get white. Okay, so that's it. You could so definitely make royal icing eggless, in that you can do it with water and no egg. It possibly won't. The whole point of the egg is the egg dries really, really hard. Sorry. The first time I've heard this song with voices. I was like, oh, where's the voice coming from? Okay, so yeah, so the reason why we do it with egg white is because obviously you use it for lace work or lace work on cakes or royal icing on sugar cookies, and you want it to dry super, super hard, and the egg white is what does that for you. But if you want it eggless, you can definitely make it out of water and no eggs, and then it's just, yeah, it beats it up. But you can see it comes out super fluffy when you beat it, as opposed to just mixing egg or egg and icing sugar. Like just mixing it normally, it doesn't come out like this at all. So it's always better to just do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to need red drip. So I'm going to make red drip. It's not going to need a lot. So I'm not going to make a lot of bread. Just when you're storing your royal icing, which I'm going to do right now as soon as I'm done here, with the big bowl here. I think that is going to be more than enough than what I need. Is to put some cling film on top so that it doesn't form a crust. So I always put, not like this. I'll show you now. So if you do this, it'll still form the crust on your royal icing. Your royal icing is used for very intricate work. So you never ever want any kind of crust of any kind forming where it can create lumps. If there's any kind of hard crusting lumps or anything like that, that will be your icing tickets. You won't be able to really use it for any kind of intricate work. So what you need to do is you need to actually push it all the way down, and literally use your cling film as a skin, really, over your icing, so that it doesn't form a crust. Any kind of air that's there is going to make it form a crust. Okay, let me just wash my hands.
Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. You should put on shoes. I should. Because it helps so much. It does.
So, let's make some red. I want to put this in the fridge. Put this in the fridge quick. So let's make some red drip icing, oil icing. I have the most amazing red. I can't even tell you the brand. I don't know what the brand is. It's just something that I get from my local baking store, and I buy it. I can't even buy it in bulk, and because I can't buy it in bulk, I buy about 6 tubs at a time. And I don't know what they do it or how they do it, but this red is the best. It literally needs just a teensy weensy scoop like that, and it will turn super red. It's what I also use in my red velvet cake, so that I don't use too much food coloring, as my husband is allergic to the food coloring in red velvet. So yeah, so we're going to make that super red. I am just wanting to check something with regards to this cake. I'm pretty sure I'm on track with it, with what it should look like. Okay, I just need to, sorry, I'm just checking what my customer sent me to make sure that I've got it right. Just want to have a look at the picture. Okay, yeah. So what she did ask for is that so I've got that okay. So basically, we're going to do red dripping, because she wanted it in red. Okay, so I might need to use another scoop of my beautiful red to turn it red. One more. So the consistency that the drip needs to be is how it's come out with me mixing it. That's okay. I can't answer them. I'll have to phone them back. The consistency is the same consistency as it comes once you've finished mixing it. So yeah. So this is also the same consistency you would kind of use for icing your sugar cookies. You'd want it thicker if you were doing lace work and stuff like that. Then you want it much thicker than this. But that's perfect. Okay, so we're ready with that. While I've got the clean table, I'm just going to quickly cut my, and this red gets everywhere. I'm just want to cut my edible plants. So I've put my edible prints in the fridge for a reason. It helps it to come away from the plastic that it's on. The edible print comes on this like plastic. And don't know who's trying to get hold of me. Sorry, guys. So I'm going to cut around my circle. This is the same size that I need for my cake. Sorry, my Princess Sophia and my Cinderella is for something else. So I'm just going to put that back in here. So if your Oedipal print has been in anywhere near anything hot, you know, like out in the sun or something like that, it will tend to stick to this plastic and you won't be able to get it off and it will tear. So one of the things that you can do is you pop it in the fridge and it will help it come away, which is pretty cool. Okay, so I'm just going to pull it away now so that I can make sure it's not sticking to this plastic. Which it's doing. See, now it's sticking. So I'm going to stick it back in the fridge because I don't want it to tear. So I'll put it back in the fridge. Hopefully that will help it to not tear. I need to put some, I'm going to put some cling wrap on my red because I don't want my red to get a crust. So let's do that. Let's go back to our cake. Oh, I wanted to go get a clean one. I'll be back. Okay, so I've got a clean one. So what this is going to do is any little imperfections that we have, but like small imperfections, nothing crazy, not going to take a crater away. It's not going to take a crater away, so that's why you've got to make it as smooth as possible. Okay, so what we're going to do is, this is pretty dry to touch, right? So now we're going to use this and we're going to put it up against it like that and we're going to rub it, and it will take any kind of grooves, and but like I say, no craters. It's not a miracle worker, but it will make your sides of your cake super smooth. So any kind of, like, you know, so when I smooth out with the hot water, I get something like that, if you can see it. So we're going to smooth it over, and you just use your hand, and you can press, obviously not super hard, but yeah, you can press fairly firmly, should we say. You can do a firm. And you just go all the way around and it will smooth it out. So if you just keep doing that all the way around your cake, this is also a way that you can make your edges a lot sharper. because you'll do your sides and then you'll do your top, and you just keep doing it until your edges are looking super sharp. But when you use a combination of how I've iced this cake and this, yeah, you get a pretty sharp edge and a very, very smooth looking cake. And then really, why do you need fondant unless you really like it, like my friend Sam? That sugar kick. I say this when I was a fondant nut when I was a kid. My mom used to do cake decorating, and she used to stock up on almond icing and plastic icing for her cakes in December to do Christmas cakes, because she used to do Christmas cakes. And by the time she'd come to using the almond paste or the or the plastic icing, it would be gone, because I had slowly eaten it through the months up until December. But I do not do that anymore. I definitely prefer buttercream cakes now over. So you just keep going. Look, I mean, it's art, eh? So things can be as perfect as possible, but you know what I mean, nothing's ever really perfect, right? But you can get it as near as damn it. Should have taken a before and after photograph. Oh, I hope my skull comes away on that paper, or else I'll be having to stop my stream to go get a new one. So I can do this. I mean, if I wanted it super smooth, you know, flat and smooth, but like I say, it's not going to make any difference to my cake, because I'm going to put drip, which is going to cover that. But I just want to kind of keep it still looking good. I'm going to just do the finishing on the cake before I do the drip. It does take time. It takes a little bit of time and patience. There's no rush in this. And it really is. Now, I don't know how smooth you want it, you know, you really want your cake, but you can go super smooth with it. But again, the smoother you get it before you do this, the better, because then the less time you use. This will be just to polish your cake off. Okay, so I'm just going to do some piping. I don't want to use a very big, I don't want to make it too big, I just want something small to finish it off. I'm really going to use something small. I'm not going to use anything that's very big at all. Very, very small star. I kind of just want it to look inconspicuous but finished off, if that makes any sense. In the meantime, the longer that my red sits, the darker it becomes. Again, I'm only doing this because I want to finish it off. I don't like cakes like this. To me, it's unfinished. You can't clean right up to the edge, so it always just definitely looks better. And I'm just going to make a very, very tiny little pattern out of using the star pattern, but like I say, it's just so that it looks finished and it's inconspicuous. It's the same color as the cake, but you will see the difference. Because also the drip is going to drip onto here anyway, so this will also catch it from so that my drip is going to be my last thing, so I need to get a picture on to the cake. Because the drip is going to cover the border of the picture of the white, because that's white and you're going to see it. So okay. So it's not overpowering, it's very small, but it does finish it off, looks finished. Well, to me it does. Yeah, I'm not sure what other people's opinions are, but I know that with buttercream these days, it seems to be the norm to leave it raw like that, and for me it's just not right. Okay, let's try and get this picture off here. So I'm going to, actually, to be honest, these can be used for a multitude of things, but I'm going to try and pull it off so that I can turn it upside down and pull it. So I like to cut my my edible prints with this plastic on because of the heat of your hand. So if you pull it off first and then cut, you're actually going to melt this, which is why I don't cut it. I don't take it off before I cut it. So I'd rather cut it, never need to put it in the fridge, then look at this, it's come off. You don't, it will not melt on the buttercream. If you think that's what will happen, it won't. Once it's on, let me move it over so that you can see. Okay, so we're going to try and get it in the center as much as possible. You don't need to put anything on to make it stick. It will stay put. Okay. I don't know who this is trying to phone me. I'll have to phone them back when I'm done. We are almost done. We're almost done. We're just going to do the drip and then we are done. Okay, so gently, no, firmly but gently Also, because if you rub too much on the print, it'll smudge, especially if it on a hot day. Today is cold, so okay. So we're going to run our drip so that it covers. So you can see it. Goodness me. I don't know who's trying to phone me. Okay, so you can see that there's a definite color and it looks unfinished, but we're going to finish it off with the drip. And we're actually going to cover it so that you can't see that. Okay. I'm going to put my phone on silent with the ringtone because I don't know who is trying to phone me and I can't have phone calls while I'm busy. So some people use like a squeegee bottle or whatever. I've been practicing this for a while now because I've been trying to get it right, and it does run. I don't need a squeegee bottle. I don't use, because it's just going to run. I find when it runs, you know, straight out the squeegee bottle or whatever, or even a piping bag, it just pours out and I feel like I can't control it. So I just use this and I just put it on gently. And I dab it on. So I'm going to put this one right on the edge because we only want it as a border. So normally, if I do the whole thing with royal icing, you know, to cover the whole top, then I start in the center, and I slowly push it out, and then it will, it kind of forms its own drip. I just want to do the border around here. This is probably, I'm not sure if it's the wrong way, but it's definitely probably not the normal way of doing it. But it's the way I prefer to do it. It really works. And I definitely get a better drip cake out of royal icing than you do out of chocolate ganache. So much can go wrong with chocolate ganache drip. And so much, yeah. I've had a lot go wrong with trying to do. I need more practice with chocolate ganache, but also I battled to do color chocolate. I know I just don't ever get it right. It never looks good. So I try not to cover chocolate. I mean color chocolate. So then I'm just going to keep adding. So now that's basically my border. And it doesn't look, it looks like I used the piping thing anyway, because that's how it's going to look anyways. It's going to run. So now I'm just going to add extra so that it can start and helping it along to drip. And just cover the edges because you don't want crazy drip either. You know, you don't want it running and then there's too much drip or it's too thick and it starts looking weird. So at the moment I'm just going to keep putting on my cake edge so that we can cover the cake edge, and then slowly as it starts to settle in, it'll start forming its own drip. So when I do an entire cake, I start from the center and I slowly add and push it out on its own. And then it slowly, as it sits, the longer it sits, the more it starts to form the drips. So you could actually push too much out, and then it's excess dripping. So I'm just going to dab it And because it's super runny, it's going to just run into itself and run down. So I'm just going to help it over the edge, and then so I help it over the edge a little bit, and then it will start to run on its own. And if I want a longer drip, I'll just put more icing for it to push itself out more. Because you want some short ones, some long ones. Because I actually essentially don't want it running all the way down to the bottom. You want nice long drip, but yeah, not necessarily running all the way to the bottom and then pooling, you know, making a big pool of drip at the bottom of your cake on your board. That never looks good. So unless you want it to look like an art form. See, now slowly, and the more I turn this around, the more it shakes it a bit to run, and the longer you leave it, the more it's going to run more. So you don't want to run it too much yourself. It'll run on its own. Like I said, this is probably not the, maybe, I don't know if it's the best way, or you know, the way that it should be done. I know I have seen it being done so many times with piping bags and squeegee bottles, but yeah, this is the way I find works best for me, and I get quite a nice result. And for me, you just do what works to get a good result, so that your cake looks beautiful and works. And because so normally you would do a drip on a very high cake, so normally like a 15 centimeter 4-layer, because then it really looks good, but this is a short cake, so that's also why I don't want the drip running away. I don't want it running away from me, because then it's just gonna, yeah, like I say, it's gonna pull at the bottom. And I don't really want it to do that. Just get some long ones in there. So I'm just going to help it along with some extra long ones. Because this will now take overnight to dry. And if I wanted to, well, not actually, it'll be pretty much dry by this afternoon. And then like if we wanted to do gold drip, you would do it with royal icing like this, but in white, and then leave it overnight to dry so that it's nice and hard, and then you can paint it. Okay, so as it goes, it's gonna do its own thing. So for me, I think that looks perfect because it's a short cake. It's not a very deep cake. Well, you know what I mean? It's not super deep. It's only a 3-layer cake. It's not super deep. So I don't want, yeah, like I said, I don't want it too much or else it doesn't look as good. So this will run some more on its own. And yeah. And that's how you do drip. It will run a little bit more on its own, so some pieces will get a little longer, possibly reach the bottom, but at least it's not going to pull on my cake board. And then I've got to clean it up because it doesn't look nice at all. But that is it. That is me. Done. I hope you enjoyed it if you've been watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and hit that notification button so that you get the notifications when I'm live. If you've only watched some of it and you'd like to watch the full live stream again, it will be on the YouTube recording, so it will be there. But I'll also have a highlights package of the cake of what I've done today. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I will have a super duper weekend, and I will see you soon. Probably next week. Yeah, next week. I'm not 100% sure on which days. Definitely Wednesday and Friday. There may be an extra day here or there. Anyway, guys, have a super duper weekend, and I'll chat to you soon.